Man, I just don't get solo RPGs. And that's not saying that solo RPGs are bad or weird, it's just that they're so foreign to my own TTRPG experiences over almost 30 years now that they just feel alien to me. How are you supposed to play them? And more importantly, how do you even design them? Hi, I'm Peter, creator and lead designer of Tales from Elsewhere, and this week's video is about game design blind spots. About how we, as game designers, are doing ourselves a disservice by not dabbling in the unconventional or the unfamiliar. So let's hop in and I'll unpack what I'm talking about here and challenge all of you to address your own blind spots. So I'm overall what you'd call maybe a trad gamer in that I play tabletop role-playing games in the lineage of Dungeons and Dragons with, concrete rules and, attack rolls and the GM being the primary controller of the world while the players just control their individual avatar mostly. But I've found that I've learned a lot by dabbling in things that are outside my comfort zone and even integrating some of those things into my own designs, even if that game is primarily traditional. My first encounter with non-traditional tabletop role-playing games goes all the way back to the original Apocalypse World. Now, I bounced off of that game when I first tried it over a decade ago because it didn't cohere with my preferred methodology in tabletop role-playing games. And I kind of slept on Powered by the Apocalypse games for so many years. And it wasn't until later on in life that I started trying out some of the weirder or more specific ones like Brindlewood Bay that I really started to get turned on to the thrust of such a rule system. And I realized how much good design fodder is contained in these games, even if I use them in something that isn't a Powered by the Apocalypse game. For example, I ended up integrating a form of death moves into my fairly traditional TTRPG because I actually really liked the way that those dying moments were handled in PBTA games, where the player who is on their way out, their character that's dying, they get to put their hand on the wheel and steer for just a moment to have a say as to how their character dies. I thought that was really cool, and I wouldn't have integrated that into my game if I hadn't decided to start dabbling in PBTA a little bit. It was a gap in my design knowledge. That whole rules light world was just so foreign to me, and I thought one of the best ways to take a break from working on my big old game was to actually try to write my own rules light game. To try to cure myself of my ignorance on very rules light and writer's room style role-playing games, I decided to write my own. And this isn't like a pitch to sell you this product, but I just want to talk through it really quick. So I decided to make sticky note comics as a way to tell superhero stories or other comic book based stories in a very rules light and collaborative way. And it was very difficult for me to build this. I'm just too trad minded when it comes down to it. And that exercise, though, was very valuable, and I could feel my brain unlocking new pathways as I tried to think visually about presenting rules rather than just writing lengthy prose. There's very little prose in this booklet. There's a lot of little drawings and dice symbols. And this game is played entirely just with your pencils and pens and a handful of sticky notes and a handful of post-it cards. You don't have traditional character sheets or battle maps or anything like that. It's just a handful of dice and some cards. And this process of condensing it down into what is just a 24-page zine was also very challenging. My main book, Tales from Elsewhere, Clockworld, is almost 400 pages, and this is nothing. So it was an attempt to communicate a game in an efficient way as possible, and that was just really good designer exercise. So if that is something you're not familiar with, making rules light or writer's room style games, it's definitely worth trying to put one together. You can feel your brain getting stronger when you do this. And really, I just had so much fun putting together sticky note comics. Just what a treat to play a little bit in a new design space and not have all this pressure on myself to make something perfectly balanced or mechanically complex. And that brings us to this other design blind spot that I have that I mentioned at the start of the video: solo role-playing games. What got me thinking about solo role-playing games and how you'd go about building them was actually the product sent to me by today's sponsor. So this product was sent to me by Man Alone and Dice Nest, and for those who watch my channel know that Dice Nest sent me some premium dice a few months ago that were very high quality, and Man Alone is a content creator that covers solo RPGs. And this isn't a solo RPG. This is called Prima Materia, and it is an oracle book. It is a dice set plus methodology for using those dice to provide unique oracles and decision-making and inspiration when doing solo role-playing games. And as always, Dice Nest dice are very high quality. These are hefty, premium, machined stone dice, very clear to read, just very high quality, feel great in the hand, with special symbols on them related to the Prima Materia structure. Now, I found this book a little hard to parse at first, mainly because I don't have any experience with solo role-playing games. Its symbols are supposed to evoke certain feelings and concepts that you then use as inspiration for determining what happens next, or the way that NPCs react, and all the normal stuff that oracles usually do, but without it being super concrete. There's a reference chart in the back for how to actually read them, and there's standard oracles you can use as well. The way it works is you'd roll these 2 dice, and then the Lux dice and the Nox dice and the Syzygy dice, which is relationship, tell you how to read this. So for example, what I just rolled would be, let's see here, knowledge against self. So knowledge against self is what this set of symbols means. And I would use that as inspiration for determining what's happening in the story. So it's very cool, it's very abstract, it definitely gets you thinking, and overall this is a very neat product. I'm going to give one very strong constructive criticism to this product, and that is, holy moly, the font size is so tiny. Y'all have heard me complain about my failing old man vision as I age, and some of the text in this book is, gosh, it looks like it's maybe size 7 or something. They're trying to fit quite a bit in this booklet, so rather than add extra pages and make it longer in that way, they've just put some very, very small text in it. And so that would be my one constructive criticism for this product, but I found it very intriguing to read, and it got me thinking about solo role-playing games and my ignorance of them. There'll be a link down below to, the link to this product, which is sold on the Dice Nest website, as usual. This isn't compensating me in any way. If you buy this product, they simply sent me a free set of the product to talk about. So go ahead and check it out below if that sounds interesting to you. All right, let's get back into talking about solo role-playing games. And as you can kind of see, I struggle to describe Prima Materia. I mean, I have the book right in front of me, and I struggle to present the information contained therein because I'm just really outside of the solo or GM-less role-playing game space. But a product like that got me thinking about what I could do to make my own. And for that, it was very valuable, because game design is not just the end product we make. It's not just the book or the PDF or whatever the end result is. It's a discipline, a practice that we can grow stronger at through use and through trying new things. It's actually quite similar to philosophy, which is what my educational background is in that philosophy isn't about the answer you achieve, but rather the process through which you seek those answers. It is an exercise of the mind, and so is tabletop game design. And this is all related to mental practices and disciplines that make you better designers. For example, using a notebook, something that is talked about in Bent Wizards, is an excellent way to actually improve your memory and your brainstorming and free yourself from the digital space. It can really help focus. So here are a couple of my notebooks that I regularly write in for adventure ideas, new books I want to create, and so forth. And I keep these with me pretty much at all times. Or after thinking about the Prima Materia product and solo role-playing games, I've started a new section in one of my notebooks with a solo RPG idea I have that I want to use as practice for this sort of design. And the fact that I'm not doing it on my phone or on the computer at first is a way to help reinforce the physicality and, honestly, the specialness of game design outside of the digital space. All of these are practices that strengthen our minds as designers. And this brings us to a challenge, you game designers and homebrewers like me. What is your blind spot in game design? What subgenre or type of game are you least familiar with? I know mine is solo role-playing games. So put it in the comments down below as a way to hold yourself accountable to it, because you should try to design something in that space. Find out what the players find joy in that type of game and how the games themselves facilitate it. And that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to make a solo role-playing game. Not anything large in scale, probably just a small zine, but I know that I will become a better game designer by doing so, and I challenge you to try the same. As always, I hope you found that interesting. This channel is just run by me and some friends in our spare time, so your support by viewing and liking and subscribing is always appreciated. If you want to go the extra mile, we do have a Patreon, all of the proceeds from which go to more prototyping and the artwork and paying the creatives that help make all of these games and videos possible. You'll also find us posting products on there like sticky note comics that the patrons can all download as part of their patronage. So links all that down below, including the Prima Materia from Dice Nest and Man Alone. All right, until next time, folks, I'll catch you.